The US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has touched down in Perth for an annual AUSMIN meeting. This is to strengthen the defence ties between the US and Australia and make sure our long history of defence continues on the same path. Defence cuts could be a contentious issue, but the government insists it won't be. Our political reporter Ashleigh Gillon spoke to the Foreign Minister Bob Carr a short time ago from Perth.
Foreign Minister, thank you for your time. If defence cuts aren't on the agenda, what do you expect to dominate? And in particular, which assets in the Indian Ocean do you expect the US has their eye on?
I don't think any assets in the Indian Ocean. I think we're tending to this relationship we've got with America. You always keep your friendships in good repair. We've got a treaty relationship with America. It's very important for the security of this continent. We discuss defence and foreign policy matters from time to time. I expect, among other things, we'll be talking about the tragic civil war in Syria that has got Australians so distressed because it's a humanitarian crisis. I expect we'll be talking about the exciting events in Myanmar with the vindication of Aung San Suu Kyi, a country now moving towards democracy. We won't be limiting our concerns to the Asia Pacific, but talking about our perspectives on the world, especially as Australia now sits, or from January will sit, as a member of the Security Council.
It is an important time in China at the moment with the leadership transition underway. At the end of these AUSMIN talks, which the Chinese will no doubt be watching very closely, what message do you have to the new Chinese leaders about the plans the US has for more engagement in this region?
I think the Chinese can look at what America says and does and make up their own minds. For our part, we say to the Chinese, you've got a right as a great economic power to upgrade, to modernise your military, but by the same token, we've got a right to look after our treaty relationship with the United States, because we've got to tend to the security of this continent. It's our obligation as a government to do that. On the bottom line, I think the Chinese respect Australia more because they know where we stand. They know that we're in a security relationship. We have a treaty with the United States.
You're a US politics buff. Are you going to be asking Hillary Clinton about her future political ambitions, Hillary, for 2016?
Well, I'd love to, but I wouldn't be so rude. It would be quite impolite of me, quite undiplomatic for me to press her on that.
Oh, you won't be able to help yourself, surely.
I think I'll curb those instincts and be the perfect diplomat throughout these meetings. But of course, anyone fond of Hillary and Bill Clinton, anyone who loves the American political process, will have at the back of his or her mind what has Secretary of State Clinton got planned if she were to give it away as Secretary of State. Everyone is intrigued by that question, but we won't be so impolite as to raise it.
On matters closer to home, how much time a day are you spending writing a book about your time as Foreign Minister? There are reports around today suggesting that some of your colleagues think that it is a bit too time-consuming. Yeah,
well, I'm not writing a book. I am simply not writing a book. I don't know where that story came from. It hasn't got the remotest basis. I was writing a book when I got called to become Foreign Minister, and I was reflecting on lessons I'd learned as Premier. But I gave that up at that time, stopped it. I mean, when I'm not travelling for Australia, when I'm not tending to parliamentary duties, I am simply too busy with other matters to clear my mind to write a book. So it's absolutely untrue. I don't know where the notion came from, but even if I wanted to, even if I thought it was an appropriate use of my time, I haven't the time to do it.
Just finally, on the polls out today, of course, we have seen some of your colleagues getting quite excited about these numbers showing Tony Abbott's unpopularity in this latest news poll today. But consistently, the polls show us that the coalition would win an election held today. Is it too soon to be getting excited for Labor?
No one on the Labor side is excited by these polls. The Australian people look at leaders and they make a judgment. They make a judgment based on their behaviour and their statements, and they've judged Tony Abbott by the things he says and does. I think they find him a bit erratic, a bit extreme, a bit negative, and that's reflected in these polls, but we'd be silly to make anything of it at this stage. But certainly there's a lot for the coalition to think about there. No state opposition leader would survive polls that negative. I've never seen a state opposition leader in any of the states of Australia survive polls that negative.
So you don't think Tony Abbott can survive as a Liberal leader?
I'm not saying that. That's up to his colleagues. But I certainly know if a state opposition leader had 60% of people disapproving of his or her performance, then that leader would be gone. But maybe at the federal level, they've made their decision and they're going to stick to it.
Bob Carr, we appreciate your time. Enjoy Perth while you're here.
My pleasure. Thank you.